Okay. I believe we are live here in the group, brother. So, yes, Attila, welcome, brother.
Thank you, Matt. So great meeting with you today.
Thank you. It's great to have you here. So as we begin here this evening, we have a special guest. It's evening for us here in the East Coast of the US, 6 p.m. Eastern here. And we are on live this evening with Transformative Erotic Coach, Atilla Cidam. And as we take a couple moments and just allow the algorithm to work, if you will, I'll go ahead and just give Attila a proper introduction here and read his introduction in his bio. And it goes something like this. Attila is here to empower you to claim your sovereignty and show up for your highest self without excuses or limits. Combining extensive training in scientific and esoteric traditions, his work focuses on shedding the barriers and identities that keep you from living your highest potential and discover the you that is ready to emerge when you leave behind all the layers that are not serving you. As a transformative erotic coach, Attila helps reprogram his clients' nervous system to allow and embody the full range of their ecstatic pleasure in all aspects of their lives. He works with a wide range of tools, including Tantra, Kink, core erotic blueprint, dance, breathwork, plant medicine, and shadow work. He has a background in psychological research with a PhD in social psychology and has spent the last decade designing large-scale social programs that empower millions to lead fully aligned lives. Attila plays in the deep contrast of polarities, dancing with full expressions of the masculine and the feminine, primal fierceness and tenderness, pleasure and pain, science and intuition. He helps his clients fully manifest and integrate the opposites. Attila is here to show up for the fullest expression of who you really are. Welcome, Atilla Cidam, PhD. Pleasure to have you here, brother.
So great feeling you here, Matt.
Yes,
and
yes.
Everybody else in the group.
Yes.
Tuning into us in the past, present, and future in this online recorded setting.
Amen, brother. Amen. Yeah, so Attila and I hooked up as a result of an offer, an invitation I put out on my private page to continue with this theme of these conscious, on my personal page, with the theme to continue with these conscious conversations to bring other male leaders here into the community, to diversify the conversation, to bring in new and enlightened perspectives into the group, and just to bring new wisdom into the community and diversify the conversation. So we're so honored to have you here, brother. And I asked Attila to send me a bio and kind of, obviously as an introduction, but also just to kind of help me familiarize myself a little bit with him. And it was really fascinating going through your work, Attila, and learning more about what it is that you're doing. And I really love this, I think, newer conversation that is emerging around like a healthy experience and expression of our sexuality. There's especially, me growing up, and I think a lot of us have probably experienced, maybe it's part of what brought you to the work, is maybe like a suppression or an awkwardness around sexuality, or definitely not a whole lot of freedom around expressing it or talking about it. At least that was my experience in my home. So really looking forward to digging into this conversation, and would love to open it up for you just to share a little bit about yourself, whatever you feel is relevant, and maybe your background.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, Matt.
Yes.
I'm really feeling called to just take a moment for just ourselves and also for our audience to just really drop into our bodies. Anybody who's watching, just take a couple deep breaths with us. Feel the energy just settling into your center. Each deep breath. Allow it to ground you wherever you're tuning into us from. connect to your cushion or your seat or to the earth. Allow gravity to just take you and allow it to bring you to full presence here so that we all give our full selves to this conversation. And take a moment to welcome all aspects of you. Conversations around sexuality can be tough, and it can bring up a lot of different parts of us. Our deepest joys, our deepest fears, our deepest shames, our deepest yearnings. All of them are welcome here. Take a moment to tell every part of you that it's welcome in this conversation. Bring your hand to your heart. Feel all those pieces coming back into your heart and to the present moment. And take one more deep breath. Come back to our presence whenever you're ready. Thank you, Matt, for following me in that.
Of course, thank you.
And everybody else who's tuning in. I find that my journey into exploring the wounding, the healing, the beauty, and the pain of our erotic lives really began with deciding that I did not want to live so disconnected from my body anymore. It was actually a journey of finding my way back into my body. And I really feel that whatever we're talking about spirituality, we're talking about porn, we're talking about sexuality, for everybody, and especially for men, this theme of how we tend to disconnect from our bodies, sometimes out of habit, sometimes out of fear of what we might find if we were to allow ourselves to really fully feel and experience what's going on in our bodies. It's really central. It's the heart of the issue for me. As Matt mentioned, I have a PhD in social psychology. So it's a fun, nice thing to mention because, you know, we're supposed to care about credentials in this social reality that we've created. So it's nice that I've kind of checked off that box. And one of the parts of checking off that box for me was living 5 years of my life as just one massive brain, one massive mind, where I was fully wrapped up in a world of ideas, concepts, arguments, research, numbers, data. And I could actually only write my dissertation and go through that process by fully denying my body everything that it needed. It was to get that PhD, I had to ignore all the nourishment and love and care that my body was actually asking from me. And I find that this is not a very uncommon story, you know, how, especially as men, you know, we are socialized to be very performance oriented, you know, grit, like how much pleasure and joy can you deny yourself now so that you can accomplish the great things that you're supposed to be accomplishing as a man? How can you ignore kind of the deeper needs of your soul, of your spirit, so that you can find a place of prestige, of wealth, of being recognized as a man who has accomplished all the bells and whistles of what a man is supposed to accomplish in the social reality that we've created. So I was fully caught up in that, and that required denying my body. And I was actually married at that time, and that marriage actually brought a ton of stability into my life, and a part of the sacrifice of that stability was a very stunted erotic energies in our marital relationship. So everything that I accomplished as a man in my 20s, in my early 30s, was accomplished through kind of plowing through life. Just, you know, this is tough. I hate this moment. But I know as a man, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, you know, like this is a real man kind of just like plows through. And then I you know, I made it. I got all the bells and the whistles. I got a great job after my PhD. I worked in that for a few years, applying social psychology insights to like really large scale programs, and I was collaborating with governments and the World Bank and this and that. And there was one morning, I think it was a Wednesday morning, that I woke up and I realized that I had absolutely no reason to get out of bed. Just no reason. You know, all the bells and the whistles and the ideal looking job and this beautiful life that I constructed for myself that seemed so kind of perfect for a man of 32 who was supposed to have, you know, made it to this level. It gave me zero joy. It gave me zero motivation. It gave me zero reason to live. I had like 8 meetings that day, and I'm just like, what? Like, why? And then that inquiry of why, jump-started a journey for me of coming back into my body to discover my why. What is something that makes me feel fully alive? What is something that makes me really, really just respond with joy to the things that I'm experiencing, to what is something that's deeply inspiring me, so that what is like that nugget that when I get up, that little golden idea that I'm just like, oh yeah, like, yes, that, like, what is that thing? And that started the process of actually, my initial gateway was dance. Dance was the first time that I actually started reconnecting with my body. It was something that I was terrified of. I spent 30 years of my life not dancing. I was like the guy on the side of the dance floor who was like, you know, just absolutely not for me. But I had a breakthrough at some point where exploring dance allowed me to drop into the full, deepest expression of my body. So it became from the thing that I was most terrified of to my greatest ally in the exploration of my of the wisdom of my body. I want to mention that because I think that's also a theme. You know, today we're also exploring some themes around our greatest pains. You know, some things that are kind of like almost our nemesis, some things that seem to be stalking us our whole lives. And sometimes we find the gate, we unlock a gate, And then we discovered that that nemesis has actually been our greatest ally, and now is now the vessel, the guidance to actually take us to the next level. And with me, dance, that was definitely the case. And so dance allowed me to start entering my body, and that kind of started allowing me to enter kind of the more fully erotic and sexual explorations that have started to become really important for me. So I started studying Tantra, conscious sexuality, intimacy, Kink, and for a while these were really personal explorations that have deeply changed who I am. I mean, if 3 years ago you told me, Matt, that this is the life that I'm going to lead 3 years from now, I'd be like, nah, nah, stop pulling my leg. And I'd be like really? Like, really? Is that possible? Until the exploration of embodiment and the healthy expression of sexual energies started. First, it was kind of like a little nugget in my life, and then started taking up more and more space until I realized that there was nothing left. There was nothing else left. That really became exploration of that, both for my own sake and for the sake of the people that I want to serve, started taking the center place of my life. So that became a leap where the leap is also another important theme in a man's life, I feel. And, you know, what are those moments where we kind of leave such big key aspect of our lives behind to really enter into kind of the new phase of who we are, almost like a shedding of the snake skin. And also, what are the qualities that we need as men to be able to take that leap? Because by definition, in a leap, we don't know where we're going to land. Actually, you know, the quality of the leap is a leap of surrender to the world. A surrender when typically as men we are so focused on control, of knowing the next steps, of kind of building consciously with awareness the perfect career, the perfect family, the perfect suburban house, or whatever goal that we're working through. But there comes a point that a leap comes calling. First, it's kind of starts calling gently, maybe like a little caress, and then if you don't listen to it, it starts becoming a nudge.
Yeah.
And then eventually, if you still don't listen to it, it becomes a slap. And then you can still not listen to it, but then you might find that your life is falling apart around you because that slap really wants to be listened to.
Yes.
And then so I finally listened to it, and then I took the leap. And here I am, so delighted to share all my experiences. So just where I am at right now, I teach workshops on intimacy and sexuality, combining all the different modalities, the Western kind of skill set, and the Tantra and the Kink, and just kind of my own explorations and the erotic blueprints. I work one-on-one with clients to also kind of guide them through their journey of sexuality and life, and leading fully expressed lives. Yeah. So that's who I am.
Beautiful, brother. Beautiful. Thanks so much for sharing. I'd love to explore maybe a little bit about this world, which is maybe sometimes viewed as taboo, right? Where people maybe get in, maybe like the world of like fetish or kink, you know, which have these connotations, which like for an outsider, maybe could be misperceived, you know? And I would love to explore, maybe you could flow a little bit around like a healthy exploration of sexuality within these worlds.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we take a step back and talk about the erotic blueprints? I feel like that will actually provide us with a great entry point to kind of contextualizing where how we can understand kink.
Please do, yeah.
Does that work for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so one of the modalities that I work with is called the Core Erotic Blueprints, and if you type Core Erotic Blueprints in the web to all of our audience, you can find this amazing quiz that actually, it's really fun. Who doesn't like these like online quizzes of just like who tells you all kinds of fun things about who you are? So the idea of the Core Erotic Blueprints is that there are different gateways to pleasure. And as a society, we have been really unequipped and really terrible at acknowledging and welcoming all these different gateways to pleasure. And we really need a model that can help us think about and affirm, hey, like, this is the way that you access pleasure. And that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And somebody else accesses it a little differently, and it looks really different from yours. And it might look scary to you, but that's their way. And that's also okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So the Core Erotic Blueprints, there are 5 of them. So there are five blueprints. Give us a map to understanding what is the gateway, the access to pleasure that works most easily for me. This might be based on my biology. This might be based on my socialization. This might just have a spiritual basis. It doesn't really matter. All of us have different kinds of access and gateways to our life of pleasure. So once we discover what is our easiest access, we can really learn to feed ourselves, our pleasure, our sexuality through that particular gateway. And actually, it's really sad because some of us spend our entire lives having no idea what these gateways are, like what my map is. And we might end up going through our entire life receiving a kind of sexuality that just absolutely doesn't work for me. And then I spend my entire life thinking that there's something wrong with me. So just to give an example, so there are 5 blueprints, and maybe I'll mention them really quickly. So one is energetic, and Matt just shared with me. It's okay for
That's me.
To share.
Please. Yep, that's me. Yep.
Yeah. So Matt just shared with me that he took the quiz and he's energetic. And most people who enter into some kind of connection with me are strong in the energetic blueprint of some sort. So the energetic blueprint is a blueprint of subtlety, of being turned on by potential. And by turned on, I don't necessarily mean just erotically, even in life. It's the blueprint where you are so sensitive to different kinds of energies of different people, of different environments, and how they impact you and your body, and how you're entering into energetic connections with people in different kinds of ways. And a lot of times for the energetic blueprint, less is more, because the energetics are so sensitive that if sexuality or any other stimulus is kind of in your face, an energetic might shut down. It's almost like our systems can easily short circuit because we're so in tune with what's happening, and that kind of like subtle current of anticipation is so powerful, can be so powerful. So actually one of the superpowers of the energetic is that we can have energetic orgasms if we actually really lean into that energetic blueprint. And maybe if we want to explore the spiritual kind of Tantra aspect of sexuality a little bit more later in the conversation, we can explore this. But so somebody who's really deep in their energetic blueprint practice can actually have orgasms entirely without touching themselves or anybody else. Because they're so in tune with the flow of sexual energy in their body and with the other person, that becomes something that's possible. So everything is a little bit amplified, but then you can also shut down. And so for a man, I don't know what your experience has been, Matt, but as a man, what I've been told as a sexual being before I started really entering these areas consciously is that I'm supposed to be like a sexual stud. I'm supposed to kind of go for like the beautiful woman that I see. I'm supposed to kind of have this like go, conquer, grab it, like the more the better. And the more that I do this, the more that I've like proven to myself and to others that I'm a man.
Yes.
This absolutely doesn't work for an energetic blueprint. It's just not who we are. And actually, like strip bars, for example, are like some of the least erotic places for me. And growing up, like in my teens, when I'm like bombarded with that kind of imagery and that kind of invitation, and like as a man, I'm not responding to that. I'm just like, is my sexuality broken? Is there something wrong with me?
Right.
And no, there's nothing wrong with me, and there's nothing wrong with you if that's what you're experiencing. You just haven't had the language or the tools to discover exactly how your sexuality works. So that's the energetic. The second one is the sensual. So the sensual is kind of a full body gateway to pleasure. So people who are strong in the sensual blueprint, they're very much turned on by the pleasures of the senses. So smell, hearing, the visuals, the right kind of music. So for somebody strong in a sensual blueprint, a date environment that's set up with just the right kind of lighting, with just the right kind of music, like that's better than like the sex itself. It's just like I'm already feeling so turned on by that. So the sensual it's like a full body experience. It's still like not focused on the genital area. It's kind of like focused on the full body sensory experience. And it's also important to note as man, because like as man, again, my experience is that we're told that our sexuality is really focused in our genital area. Right. And yeah, like there's a lot of obviously there's a lot of power there, and there's so much more. And there's a lot of power actually in circulating erotic energy through our bodies. And so the sensual blueprint helps us access pleasure in a more fully embodied way. The third blueprint is called the sexual blueprint. That's kind of like wham bam, thank you ma'am. It's like direct to the point. Let's get it done. We're all familiar with it. It's important to note that sexual blueprint is like only one of the blueprints. Like that's what we've been told typically, that is the entire range of sexuality, but it's actually just one of the blueprints. So we're familiar with the sexual, and the fourth is actually kinky. So the kinky sexuality usually likes to explore the edges, the taboo, the erotic turn on in the places that seem forbidden, perhaps. And it's a place of actually endless exploration and creativity. The kinky blueprint is so deep and so rich if approached within the right kinds of conversations, within the right kind of container. It can also be a damaging blueprint if approached without a lot of awareness, consciousness, or knowledge. So if you have no experience with the kinky blueprint, it's actually one that is really good to kind of receive some guidance around, because you're kind of playing with the knife's edge, metaphorically and perhaps actually literally. That there's a lot of power in there, but there's also, if you're not wielding that power properly, it also can go haywire. And the fifth one is actually called the Shapeshifter Blueprint. It's these people who can transform into any one of those, and sexual experiences are usually deeply satisfying. To shapeshifters, one, they kind of combine all of this. The more the better. And every blueprint has a superpower and a shadow side. So for the shapeshifter, the superpower is kind of being able to just find pleasure in all of life. Just energetic, sexual, sensual, kinky. Just give me all of it. And the shadow of one of the shadows of the shapeshifter is that usually people who are shapeshifters are told that they're too much, that they're wanting too much, that they need to limit themselves. It's often because they often are spending time with people who are maybe comfortable with only one or two blueprints. They may also not be fed in all the ways that they want to be fed. And so the superpower of the kinky is creativity, and the shadow of the kinky blueprint is shame, and being deeply ashamed for who you are. So let's talk about kink within that context. Matt, does that make sense to you? Is there anything you want to ask on your behalf, on the audience's behalf, around the blueprints in general, before I dive into the kinky one a little bit more?
Beautiful. Well, I'd love to I do have some follow-up questions, but I'd love to allow you just to continue to flow where you are there, and I've got a couple ideas maybe to follow up with once you're done there.
Okay. Okay.
Great.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Thank you. Yep.
You know, every time I try to define kink, I cringe a little bit, just because I'm just not doing justice to it because it's such a vast universe. So I think it's helpful for me to describe kink from my perspective and my experience. And actually, my entry into the kink world has been through the energetic blueprint, which is not something that many people would imagine. So what are some ideas that you think of when you think of kink? It might be kind of just extreme intensity of just kind of going for it, of just kind of like
I think of like BDSM maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, like but open that up. Like, what are some of the images that are coming up?
Like whips and chains and leather and handcuffs and domination and submission, stuff like that.
What are some of the adjectives that are coming up for you?
Adjectives as in, what would be an adjective?
Extreme, power,
wrong,
yes. You know, pain, sadistic, or like just like things like that.
Yes to all that.
Yeah, all of that. Exactly. Yeah. Perfect. So, because I'm so energetic, that actually doesn't work for me. You know, if you give me kind of, I'm actually going to just it's nice to have an embodied conversation.
Yes.
just have this little kind of icon of
prop. Love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that whole kind of overwhelming approach actually does not work for me. What works for me is the exploration of the dominance and submissions dynamic in a very subtle and powerful way. So what I've discovered through my kind of explorations of sexuality is that actually all sex is energetic. So maybe this is like I'm giving some kind of supremacy to the energetic blueprint, which is just true for me. You know, all sex is a deep exchange of energy. And if you're in the energetic blueprint, you are really tuned into that energetic aspect of it rather than just the physical aspect of it. But what's happening, like when you're having penetrative sex, when you're flirting, I mean, imagine how much you can get turned on by just flirting, how much there's a transfer of sexual energy without touching, sometimes even more deeply than actual penetration. Mm-hmm. So there is that deep energetic play going on, no matter what we're doing. So kink is a place that we can explore this transfer of energy in kind of really diverse ways. Rather than trying to, again, kind of define the realm of kink, I'm just going to talk about what is powerful for me in kink. Yes. What is powerful for me is specifically the play of dominance and submission. So these are archetypes in kink that is actually available for anybody. These are almost like kind of a blueprint of how to exist that is dormant or active in different degrees in everybody. And again, you can think of this as you know, archetypes in the pleasure domain, or you can think about it as life. You know, there are many points in life where we're activating our really dominant, especially as men, our dominant archetype, right? We want to be in control. We're, you know, if we're holding positions of power, we're telling people what to do, and we need them to obey us. We need them, you know, we need things to be in a certain structured way. So we're really kind of tapping into that place of presence, of power, of control, of pure awareness, where we are listening to our intuition completely about what is the next step. So this is an archetype that a lot of men have some kind of relationship with it. You know, sometimes we hate it because we've been forced into that archetype. Sometimes, you know, it's something that maybe comes naturally to us. The other archetype is the archetype of submission. It's the place of surrender. And with this, a lot of men were just not familiar with it. You know, how difficult is it for many men to just like sit back and receive? You know, to just like open yourself to like niceness, to just like gifts, to just accepting pleasure in our bodies, where you actually don't have to do anything, where you're not kind of trying to make shit happen or like fix it or like make it better or optimize it or like make it like a little more productive or a little more efficient, or where you're just in this place of just stepping back and receiving. So that's also another archetype that's alive in everybody and men, but we may not be as familiar with it. So dominance and submission play is a place of exploring the polarity, that's the charge that's created from entering these two archetypes. And it's a place of immense power and potential, because the dominant archetype is stepping into a role of their mastery, of just, hey, even though I don't know exactly how this is going to unfold, I'm trusting in my innate wisdom to guide me. And I am keenly tuning into the needs of my sub. My entire role when I step into the dominant archetype is to take the sub deeper into their subspace experience. So the sub enters something called the subspace, where they are really allowing all the different parts of them that they were kind of holding on to with tightness, with control, to just relax, to loosen, to break down. And there's a ton of power in that. So what happens in this kind of DS play is that the sub can enter and explore places that's a part of their psyche that they were afraid to explore before. Like something like, for example, abandonment fears, you know, which one of us don't have that? Imagine, and again, this is the theme of like turning our nemesis into our allies. Abandonment fear is just like such a nasty thing, you know, like we've all kind of experienced, you know, being kind of abandoned by our parents to some degree or another, and it's kind of, you know, I haven't met anybody who just doesn't experience abandonment fears to some degree in their lives. And maybe, you know, some of us really evolved beings have kind of worked through it and processed that, but still that's something that we've had a chance to process. So in the subspace, the sub can actually allow themselves to fully feel in their body these fears of abandonment. And you can actually set up a scene between the dom and the sub where this abandonment fear is activated. But the beauty of the kink scene is that the first time it was activated, whatever happened, whatever moment your parents abandoned you, and you felt that deep abandonment when you were like 3 or 4, that was not consensual. That was you were a passive recipient of like whatever that deep trauma that happened in your body. This time you're bringing a flashlight to the crime scene of your psyche in this completely consensual safe space. So you're allowing that same pain to arise in your body, but you're allowing it to arise in this place that is completely held, completely supported. And the Dom is there to take care of you and help you go deeper into your experience and go deeper into that pain. And a lot of times and different scenes are set up in different ways, but what's common to every dominance and submission play is that after you enter this kind of very intense space where you're exploring kind of the hidden rooms of your psyche that maybe you were afraid to go into, it ends with aftercare, where you're like, you've like really kind of entered these intense spaces, and afterwards you've worked out a plan where this time, the first time that whatever it is that happened to you, there was nobody to care for you, but this time there's somebody to hold you, to support you, to allow you to integrate that experience, to allow you to be just fully cared for after you've explored all those rooms.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just kind of like one example of what a kink scene can explore and look like. That is just like really different from what we think of as kind of people do in like these chains and leathers and whips, and you know, this is like about like subtle psychological exploration that has as its goal healing and spiritual development.
Yes.
So I'm just going to pause there because I've been talking for a little bit, but I just wanted to give you kind of like a sense of a kink play that is powerful and unusual, that doesn't quite fit all the kind of the adjectives and the typical notions that come up when we're typically thinking about kink play.
Yeah, it's beautiful. What I'm hearing, and if you feel like you've already hit on it enough, then that's fine. But if you feel like there's any more here, I'd love to maybe explore maybe going into the sexuality or utilizing the sexuality or tapping into the sexuality to for the purposes of maybe healing or psychological, health or whatever's available there.
Yeah, completely. So yeah, that's what I've been talking about a little bit with the kinky.
Right.
I think to me, the kinky blueprint is especially powerful. This DS place is especially powerful to explore the healing. And it's definitely not the only gateway. It's powerful because of its directness. It's powerful because you can actually make, that topic of growth and healing, and that whatever barrier is that identified, you can make that as the topic of sexual play, which is like really interesting. So I know Buddhist practice is a part of kind of something that's important for you, right?
Yeah,
right, Matt?
yeah.
That's kind of all about kind of, dissolving the ego and kind of relaxing all the different parts of the ego. That can be explored in kink play but it's not kind of the subtle way of just kind of sitting with the ego and allow it to kind of settle down and seeing its illusory nature. In kink play, where we can actually take our ego as the subject matter and almost like take a bludgeon to it. It's like this very kind of direct approach to the ego, where you set up a kink scene where the dom plays a certain role and the sub plays a certain role, where the subject matter is the ego, and how we can really help to dissolve and destroy each other's egos. Yeah. So it can become like this really powerful exploration. But that's just kink, like that's one powerful gateway. And it's like super important to note that there's like all this juicy stuff that can be explored in kink, but there are also the other gateways.
Yeah.
So is there something you wanted to ask or say?
No, that's good. I'm just listening. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, obviously, like the other blueprint that is so ripe with kind of healing and growth potential is the energetic one. The energetic blueprint, sometimes I describe myself, the energetic blueprint, as the blueprint of listening, the blueprint of deep listening. Because these energy currents are running through our bodies, whether we like them or not, whether we acknowledge them or not, whether we notice them or not. And the energetic blueprint is really tuning into that inner flow. And that flow, that's between us. And even between you and I right now, Matt, there's an energetic exchange. There's a certain way that I'm actually experiencing your presence, and my body is actually sometimes giving me signals about the things that are going on in your body as we're engaging in this energetic interaction. But only in the energetic blueprint do I tune in to what is actually going on what is actually going on in my body. What are some of the areas or the blockages? What are some of the ways that energy is flowing a little bit less fluidly, a little bit with a little bit kind of more dense, a little bit more stuck. So something that I'm feeling right now, for example, can I reflect there? That I'm feeling this like tension in my neck area, that I feel like it's actually reflecting some tension that you're holding in your neck area. I don't know if that resonates or not, but that's just like some signals, like, oh, like, is this me or is this Matt right now?
Right.
So there's kind of like an embodied communication where and like how I want to respond to it is just by like loosening a little bit and just like relaxing my neck and relaxing my shoulders. So, and that's just like one little bit of like embodied exploration that we can, as humans who are just having this energetic exchange now, can explore. As we keep tuning into this over time with dedicated partners, what deep level of awareness can be explored about what's actually going on deep down in our bodies? So the more we tune into this, we can really start exploring the creative use of our sexual energies for different purposes. So one big theme in the Tantra world that probably everybody is familiar with to some degree is the question of ejaculation, and maybe in the group that's focused on porn, maybe that's especially prevalent. But so the idea goes that that our semen carries some essential life force, and when we ejaculate, we are physically giving that life force into the universe. And according to some traditions, when we physically give that life force to the universe, it's actually to some degree leaving our body. So it's kind of depleting our vitality. And if instead we develop the practices that instead of giving our life force out into the world through our ejaculation, we learn to retain it, we can channel that same life force for different kinds of purposes. We can use it for healing. We can use it for spiritual purposes. So we can guide it towards our spiritual or personal growth intentions. We can channel it towards our goals. So it's almost kind of taking that energy that would have been given out to the world as semen and turning that intentionally into other kinds of intentions. So this is called a sexual sublimation. That we are kind of transforming this sexual energy into other kinds of energy to clear away blockages. Apart from the sublimation part, actually, it's probably worth mentioning that the practice of ejaculatory control is amazing, incredible, and like without doubt, every man should master. Like there aren't many shoulds that I say, because my approach to kind of sexual exploration is like whatever you're into is probably good. Like I try to come from a place that is all affirming and all welcoming. And this is one practice that I feel extremely passionate about, because ejaculatory control doesn't mean that you don't need to come. It means that you have mastered your ejaculation so that you can come when you need to, and you are aware of the energetics of what is happening when you don't ejaculate. So at kind of like a more pep talk level, what happens when you master ejaculatory control is that, one, you can literally have like penetrative sex for like ever, like until you want to stop, which can translate to amazing results in terms of enhancing your sexual experience, especially if you're dealing with issues of premature ejaculation or erectile dysfunction, which actually the way that I understand them, they just come from the same source. They come from the same source of desensitization and not having this deep listening relationship with our body. And actually exploring the practice of ejaculatory control can deeply kind of feed into resolving blockages, both for erectile dysfunction and for premature ejaculation. So you can last forever, and you can also learn the art of having non-ejaculatory orgasms. So it is a myth that that ejaculation is orgasm for men. Like they're tied together because that's the only way that we've experienced them. They're tied together because the only way that men are taught to experience orgasm is when they're ejaculating. But it's just they are separate experiences. Ejaculation is the experience of semen coming out of your body, and orgasm is like an entire different set of triggers that are happening in your body that is not about the semen coming. They happen at the same time, but they don't have to happen at the same time. And when you explore how they're actually separate, there are completely personal benefits, like lasting forever, like like being able to explore pleasure, however long, in whatever way, like feeds me and my partner, and also being able to work with blockages like ejaculatory dysfunction or premature ejaculation at a personal level. And also it can also be an incredible spiritual practice to kind of explore then the sublimation of those energies for like personal growth, for like exploring the different kinds of blockages. Yeah. So I highly recommend that. There are like different tools available. It's it's a practice that requires giving yourself to it for a couple months to kind of get down, but anybody can get it down with patience.
Yeah. So in regard to the ejaculatory control, I think that's where you said ejaculatory control, right? Yeah. And also
let's call it even better. Let's call it ejaculatory choice.
Ejaculatory choice. Okay, I like that. Yep. Yeah. So in regard to that, and also the ability to experience orgasm without ejaculating, yeah. is that practice tied into Tantra, or how would someone go about exploring that, or maybe the practices involved around that?
The word Tantra is so it's unclear what that means. Tantra is a practice that originated 3,000 years ago, and it's not clear that ejaculatory control was a part of everybody's practice of Tantra so many millennia ago. So these days we're kind of exploring this revival of like neo-Tantra, which then maybe it's better to call it neo-Tantra or even like conscious sexuality, because I can't claim that we're fully honoring those traditions that came before us. And so it's, I think, better to kind of just say that we're kind of doing our own thing, and maybe we should just use our own vocabulary and language around that. So maybe maybe it's better to kind of call it conscious sexuality and awareness. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a deeply personal practice. There are a lot of people that teach it in different ways. So there's kind of famous teachers who come from a Taoist tradition, and that comes with a certain energetic techniques. There are people who have kind of taken that and kind of like made it much more practical and maybe like speaking to a more directly Western audience. And everybody has like a somewhat different approach to it. It's a little bit like maybe perhaps meditation practice, Matt, where it's important to kind of learn from somebody, but ultimately it's really finding out the way that meditation works for you specifically. That becomes the easiest gateway for you. I would say, first place is kind of doing some research. You can just there's a ton of information out there. It's also easy to get lost in it. I mean, this is one practice I feel like is sometimes helpful to explore with a guide. So this is something that I can guide people through as they're exploring this. But there are also kind of like lots of books and videos and different people that have put together kind of packages that can explored also on one's own. I want to kind of like emphasize this foundation of listening. I think, especially when we're getting into esoteric practices, it's really easy to get excited by kind of the fanciness of it. And especially actually if we're experiencing some kind of a sexual dysfunction. So let's say like I have a dysregulated relationship with porn usage, or I'm experiencing erectile dysfunction. It's easy to kind of point to, like, try to kind of find one technique that's going to work. And to me, it's really important to kind of emphasize the foundations. And the foundations are listening and coming back to your own body. So if this is stuff that you want to explore, doing anything that allows you to enter full presence and listening with your body, like, that is the first step. You can't explore ejaculatory control without coming back into a full awareness of your body, a full listening of your body. Especially as men, what I find myself doing so often is that whenever somebody asks me a question, whenever somebody something comes up that's a challenge for me, something that makes me anxious, something that I don't like, something that pisses me off, my energy rises to my head and I start responding from this heady conceptual place. That's literally the only way that I've been taught how to exist as a man, is to not exist as a full embodied individual, but to exist as this kind of argumentative, kind of conceptual, combative, combative and kind of conceptual, like a being that is really locked in the conceptual realm. So the first step into exploring any kind of embodied esoteric practice is to notice the way that I leave my body throughout the day, and develop any kind of practice of coming back into connection with my body. Whether it's taking a deep breath, noticing my sensory experiences, noticing my butt on my cushion, taking another deep breath. How often do we do this, Matt? It's right. Like as men, as a part of our daily lives, like we're kind of rushing from one thing to the other. We're like trying to get things done. We're worrying about things. We're worried about bills. We're worried about like the next things that we need to accomplish. How often do we just really check in with our bodies, or just like, body, what is happening right now? What do you want? What do you need? What do you desire? And even when we're embodied, our relationship with our bodies, usually as men, is also very functional. When we're listening to our bodies, it's usually when we're trying to get it to do something, of just like, hey, I want you to perform better when I'm running, or like when I'm playing basketball, or I want to hone you into a better machine for martial arts. There's a really different relationship that we can build with our bodies that is about responding to the desires and the wisdom of our bodies, that is about listening to our bodies rather than telling it to how to optimize its functionality. So I would say, if you're interested in these sorts of practices, use anything that gives you a gateway to listening to your body, to having a more embodied experience in your day-to-day life, to coming back into connection with your breath, with your sensations, with the full presence of your experience. And that will give you an amazing foundation for whatever more esoteric, energetic practice that you want to build.
Beautiful. Thank you. I want to just, I want to acknowledge the time. We've been at about an hour. I'm good on time, and I have a couple more things to hit on. I'd love to, but I also want to honor where you are time-wise. Are you good to keep going a little bit?
Stay with this for a bit longer, yeah.
Okay, cool. What I'd love to, this is kind of in the realm of the conversation we're having here, and I think a question that is relevant to a lot of the men within our community. So I'd love to address it specifically, and it is this question, or this issue that a lot of men run into, where maybe they're abstaining, definitely abstaining from porn, right? And a lot of them are practicing abstinence from ejaculation or masturbation in many cases. And so, and also many of our members obviously are not in a relationship, or maybe they're not active sexually. So the issue that comes up for a lot of guys is like, what do I do with this energy that's inside of me? You know, how do I need some sort of healthy outlet, you know? And there's a couple things that, you know, obviously we could just learn to sit with that energy. Maybe we could release it through healthy sexual, you know, personal sexual practices. Maybe we could direct it somewhere. But what comes up for you, or what ideas do you have around exploring or dealing with this energy, so to speak?
Yeah. Thank you. At least two things come. One, it is such an incredible opportunity to explore a deep self-pleasure practice. And I'm not using the word masturbation because that has so much connotations of what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
So a deep self-pleasure practice is first and foremost a practice of listening to your body. So it's not like turning something on or visualizing something and just kind of starting jerking off. It might start off a lot like a meditation practice, or maybe just like laying down. If you're watching this, actually just take a moment to just close your eyes, check in with your body, take a deep breath. Now use one of your hands. What is one thing that you can do to your body right now that would give it just a little bit more pleasure? Does it maybe want to be massaged in its neck? Does it like a soft touch? Does it want to be scratched? Does it just want to be held? Just give yourself that. Check in with the pleasure of your body. What is one thing that you could do to your body that would give it just 10% more pleasure? Don't have to talk about orgasm right now, but 10% more pleasure. And ask yourself, what is the last time you asked this to your body? What is something I can give you right now that would give you 10% more pleasure? So that's minute one. What if you set up a 45-minute long container that explored just this question? No preconceptions, no senses about what this is supposed to look like. And using the different gateways. So the gateways of experience. So these are our breath. This is our sound. So what does a typical man sound like when they're in a sexual experience? In my experience, let me tell you. This is the sound of a man in their pleasure. Like, let it out. Like how can we use sound to just kind of move current through our body? How can we also what is our movement supposed to look like? Like when we're masturbating, it's just like up and down. When we're like having sex, it's just like this one track. Like, is that the only way that your body wants to move? What if you fully allowed yourself for 45 minutes to explore your joints, explore your sensuality, explore the different ways that your body just wants to move through space? What's a sound that can amplify your pleasure? What is one way that you can breathe that will deepen your experience of pleasure? So after demonstrating these, now I'm feeling like my body's getting activated. When I breathe in, I'm filling the cup of my pleasure quite a bit right now. My whole body is getting activated. And if I quicken my breath, I'm starting to take my body in a certain direction. If I slow down my breath, I'm allowing pleasure to still exist, but it's kind of more settling in. Now that I can explore nuances in the slowness. So there are the gateways. And another gateway is our imagination, actually, by also visualizing the flow of energy. So if you're feeling deeply stuck in a part of your body, like, oh, all the sexual energy, I don't know what to do with, visualize this movement. Our capacity for imagination created the entire world that we live in right now. It was nothing but our power of imagination. Imagine if it created this world around you, imagine what it can create in your body. So what you want to create in your body as you're breathing, as you're expressing, as you're using your sound, as you're using the full range of your movement and not this kind of just back and forth that you've been taught is only right for a man. You can also use your imagination to explore the movement of energy and see what comes up with. So what if, rather than just kind of masturbating, what if you created a 4 or 5 minute container where you fully explore, fully allow yourself to explore without any conceptualizations of what it's supposed to look like. Allow yourself to get as weird as possible. What pleasure and the flow of energy, sexual energy in your body might feel like. What might you discover? So I can prescribe you specific things, but I would much rather give you the tools to listen to yourself and to give you the permission to explore however the fuck you want to explore. I want to give you that permission so that you come to a place where you really realize that you don't need anybody's permission. That your sexuality is your sexuality and it doesn't have to look like whoever else's sexuality. And our sexual energy gets stuck because we're trying to make our sexuality look like somebody else's sexuality. So what if I gave you permission? The permission that you actually don't need, but I'm giving it to you anyway. To explore your sexuality in the way that your being really wants to explore. So that I would advise to anybody who's feeling that kind of stuck energy, to just broaden your vocabulary. Check out the erotic blueprints. If you wish, contact me. I can give you more of the language. I can give you more of the tools. To really fully explore, to kind of pull away some of the conceptualizations of what we think our exploration might look like, and just really start from scratch. Get weird. Create a container with yourself. Sometimes it's difficult to get weird with others, but get weird with yourself. See what happens. See how that energy moves. So on top of that listening and freedom exploration practice, I can prescribe certain things. So there's like amazing breathwork practices that are designed just to work with the issue that you're talking about, Matt. Very specific ways of using the breath so that energy is channeled and activated and sublimated. So like that gets a bit more technical, that gets a bit more precise. And so I like, in my coaching work, I like to work with both poles. So like there's the one pole, this is like the feminine pole of like listening and surrendering and flowing and just like really being true to what's real and what's present. And that's the feminine pole. And the masculine pole is the pole of precision. So where I'm really bringing in the sort of masculinity to bring a very specific form of mastery. So if I'm exploring a practice, I'm like really going with precision into that so that I'm developing this very specific form of mastery. So that I think that's also important. As men, we've kind of completely neglected this side. We have a little bit of experience with this side, but we can deepen in both. And so I think that's like the two poles that's really important. So listening, surrender, or just aliveness to what's present. That's like a super important practice. And then to developing the precision of very specific techniques so that when it's required, you can bring those in. but they only go hand in hand. If you're only attracted to this, if when you're listening to me, it's like, give me the techniques, you probably actually really need this. So note also like where your mind is going, because where your mind is going right now is probably where you're already comfortable and where your like being actually needs to be fed in the other pole.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful explanation. Thank you so much. Yeah. I have two more ideas for just a couple quick things to hit on, or maybe not quick. I don't want to rush it, but if that's okay with you.
Please go ahead.
You good? Okay. So I would love to maybe take a step back or two. Something came up for me around when we were getting into the conversation around these blueprints and the idea of kink. And we talked a little bit about, we were looking at like maybe exploring different areas of our sexuality, maybe the extremes or the boundaries of our sexuality in a healthy context.
Yeah.
Right. Which is I think what you've beautifully described. And then we've got this side of sexuality, which many of the men in our group maybe have found us for. Maybe they're deep into their relationship with their sexuality, but it's taken a turn that is maybe more unhealthy, and maybe it's come up maybe there's more of the shadow side of the sexuality coming up. Compulsive pornography use, maybe sex addiction of some sort. Maybe there is a lot of shame around their sexuality when they want to explore maybe the different parts of them sexually. So where do you think this balance between healthy exploration of sexuality is, and maybe the side of our sexuality which turns out to be not so healthy? Where's that line, or what is that?
That's a really important question, Matt. There's so many ways to explore this. One thing that's coming up for me is I feel like it's so important to have an attitude of humility around these topics, because I feel like we know so little. Actually we know so little. Like I've developed a certain knowledge base, and this is like my life's work now, and I feel like there's just so much more to explore. Like, as a society, our sexual shadow is so strong, our sexual wisdom is so little, and every concept that we use is so laden with some of the unhealthy ways that we've been looking at sexuality. To me, it's really important to just, whatever we think we know about sexuality and healthy sexuality and sexual shadow, I feel like it's so important to just take a step back and just come from a place of not knowing. I want to invite more Zen into this question. That's what I want to invite beginner's mind into this question of, let's approach this not with judgment, not with a sense of just place of like, we already know the healthy expressions and unhealthy expressions, and it's just a matter of kind of telling people how to go to one or the other, but a deeper curiosity of just like, hey, as a society, as a civilization, this is one area that we're actually really immature in. And it's okay that we acknowledge that. It's okay to be at this stage. We've been very immature about other topics before, and that was fine. And it's okay that like we know so little about sexuality now. But I think when we start to pretend that we know everything, we start getting locked into concepts that take us down certain directions. So like the concept of addiction, for example, like brings so many kind of different concepts into it already. Our prevalent model of addiction is kind of substance addiction, right? That's kind of like where the addiction model comes from. That has a certain like physiology associated with it. There's a certain ways that certain chemicals are being affected in our brains. And a lot of people have been studying like, is this the model that works for pornography and the way that like dysregulated relationship with pornography might work? And actually some of the scientific evidence is showing that it's not. Like, it's actually like pornography, like the dysregulated relationship with pornography is not like substance addiction. Like, it's something different. But when we start talking about it as addiction, we're already inviting a certain framework that was developed in a different context. That's actually, it's turning out that it's actually not very well applied. So it's just like, that's something that's coming up for me, is kind of like this place of like curiosity, of wonder, of just kind of like, wow, there's like so much here that we still don't know yet. So that's one thing that I want to mention. The other thing is, I think one assumption that I bring into my work is that in its essence, our sexual energy is beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And there's nothing else that is in our human experience that is so beautiful, so powerful, gives us so much joy, that we have created so much shame and guilt and fear and trauma around.
Mm-hmm.
Like that contrast between like the powerful, immense joy and how deeply shame and traumatic this experience has become, that's like almost unmatched in any other area of human experience. And that's why actually I kind of entered into this work. It's like, oh wow, like this polarity is powerful. So I want, this wouldn't be everybody's approach, but you asked me the question and I have the mic. So I want to invite everybody to start from a place of feeling that their sexuality is beautiful. Even if it might be manifesting itself in dysregulated ways, in sometimes destructive ways. I think coming to that place of just that innocence, that wonder, like your sexuality is not bad, no matter what you've been told. It's not the devil's work. Like it's not this thing that's designed to kind of trick you into and pull you away from your, your virtues. It's beautiful. Just acknowledge that. Just feel that. Just feel that. And from there, because from that place of that power and that innocence, we have built so much dysregulated structures around our sexuality that oftentimes our sexuality just doesn't know how to manifest itself. Like men's sexuality has been for a long time been manifested in extremely difficult ways, in extremely unconstructive ways. Like we have become rapists, we have become destroyers, we have like taken this thing of like beauty and innocence and wonder and created a tool of like immense trauma. And if like we're talking about like the any sense of good and evil, like that's where this kind of unhealthy channeling of this beauty is I think like what's evil. And with like the Me Too movement, which to me it's been like it's incredible that like now our the way that men's sexual energy have been harming women has become like such a kind of accepted and recognized social conversation. I think that's amazing. And I think it's been incredibly healing for many women. And I think it's started men on an inquiry of healing, even if it's not led to their healing yet. What is in the short term, what I'm observing is what it's led to is that men are now deeply confused about their sexual expression. Like I don't like, okay, I see the destruction and I see the way that I can be judged for any expression of my sexual self. So I'm just gonna back off. Like this is like hot coals and I don't want to touch it. So a lot of men are like retreating and withdrawing into that place of just like, I don't want to touch it lest I hurt somebody or lest I'm accused of hurting somebody. And what I want to invite is a very deep, vulnerable, authentic conversation around this. men, become warriors of love and light. Don't retreat from the battlefield of love. You know, yes, you won't get it right every time, but just withdrawing from the battlefield is not the answer. You have a ton of innate wisdom around this, even though it's not currently manifesting itself. As a society, as men who are supporting each other, we will enter into processes where we can unlock more of that innate wisdom so that we can express our sexuality in beautiful ways, in powerful ways that give immense joy to ourselves and to our partners, where it's giving life to not just our experiences in the bedroom, but it's also giving vibrancy to all of our lives, to our careers, to our professions, to our romances, to our even friendships. We will discover how to really explore the sexual energy in healthy, authentic, consensual ways, in beautiful boundaries that allow us to be vulnerable, that allow us to be able to express the full range of who we are. We're not there yet, and it's okay that we're not there yet. It's okay that we're not there yet. And that's why this kind of like destructive and construct, that's why these dualities are emerging, because we're not there yet. And it's okay. But if you approach things with vulnerability, with humility, with integrity, you're already winning. You're already on the right path. So don't retreat from the battlefield of just like, I'm hurt, I'm being judged, I'm afraid. We need you. We need your voice. We need your vulnerability. We need your integrity. We need your beauty. We need your pure intentions. And we need to learn together. As brothers and sisters, we need to learn together.
Yeah. Beautiful, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. My final question for you, brother, is I just want to give you the opportunity to kind of offer your wisdom, your input into the specific conversation around pornography, which which this group is assembled around. What would you offer to the man who does find himself with this compulsive or addictive relationship with pornography, and he's finding that it is taking a self-destructive course, and maybe experiencing a lot of guilt, shame, remorse? It's something he'd like to remove or eliminate or reduce from his life, but he's been unable to, and he's going through this turmoil around pornography. What would you offer?
Are you talking about like my personal offerings, my personal services, or like general words of wisdom and guidance?
Words of wisdom and guidance, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would say take one big page, write down everything that you think you know about what your problem is. Just like write it down, fill up the page. You know, I'm addicted to porn because of this. Here's why it's wrong. Here's why it's destructive. Here's where it's coming from. Here's, X told me this about it. Y told me about it. This is like what I believe. This is what I believe. Just write it all down. Write it all down. Get it all out. Everything that you think you know about your relationship with porn and where it's coming from. Take one big red marker and just put a massive X over it. What you know might be true. What you know might also be taking you down a pathway of exploration or relating to your relationship with porn that is exactly what you don't need. That is exactly, actually, it might be the thing. One of the things that you wrote down there might actually just be the problem itself. That might be the problem itself. Everybody's relationship with porn is unique. So we need to come to, instead of telling you what's wrong with you, instead of telling you how you need to fix yourself, we need to come to a place of, hey, brother, I acknowledge your experience. Let us explore the uniqueness of your experience. And we can only do that if we put a giant X over everything that we think we know around it. So once we put a giant X, the next step is then approaching it with curiosity. Let's deeply explore beyond the shame, beyond the shaming, beyond the guilt, beyond the guilting. What is this experience like? What am I actually experiencing when I encounter porn? So something that I find that's true is that porn, a lot of the dysregulated relationships with porn is coming from some deeper pain that we're not willing to feel. You know, it's one way to kind of disconnect from. It's actually porn is a way to disconnect from our bodies, so that we don't have to actually feel the pain that is there. That's already there. So the issue is not porn. The issue is pain and our relationship with that pain. You know, and like what I do with porn, you know, it might matter, but unless I like explore that pain and allow myself to fully feel that pain, if I come to a place where I'm not afraid of just holding, feeling, experiencing the full range of the pain in my body, what I do with porn is just kind of like then putting what's that American saying? Lipstick on a pig. Lipstick on a pig. You know, like that. Then I might outwardly I might come to a place where my relationship with porn is dysregulated, but deep down, the source of the problem is still there. You know, by fixing this relationship with porn, I actually haven't fixed anything. Maybe I've just added 3 more layers of shame onto that pain. Maybe that's what I've done by actually seemingly fixing my relationship with porn. I've actually just added layers of shame. So what I would say is write it down, put an X, and tune into what is happening deeper down. And you might need some support around it, or even by just listening to this, some things might come up. And it's so important to approach either with support, or if you want to just hold yourself through it, so important to approach what's coming up with no shame, because that's shadow work. So the concept of the shadow is all the parts of ourselves that we've denied, that we've repressed, that we've not accepted. That's like, we're like saying it's bad. You know, that's the part of me that I don't want to be a part of me. And it creates a bifurcation in our psyche where there's a light part and there's a shadow part. And the shadow doesn't go away. It just is like living in the basement of our psyches. And when the lights are turned off, it just comes out to party and trashes your place. It's actually running the show. You just don't know that it's running the show. So when things come up, it's so important. And why things stay in the shadow is because whenever they come up, we either run away from it, we disconnect from our body. Oh, shadow, like that's not something I want to feel or experience. So I'm just going to go into my head and like start running my judgment scripts. Or like I'm going to start to distract myself, or I'm going to start to shame. It's like, oh my God, like what a terrible, terrible being I am to like have that come up. No, that's a part of you. It's okay. It might be like a super shameful desire. It's okay. You haven't acted on it. It's okay that this is a part of you. Allow it to be held, allow it to be witnessed, allow it to be seen, even if just by you. It just needs to be held. And the more that we hold our shadow parts that come up, the more that they become a more integrated part of our psyche. So that rather than being demons that come out to dance at night, we're actually inviting them to the party. Hey, demon, come, I saved the couch for you. Let us have tea.
Yes.
And you know what? It's powerful, actually. It's like an amazing conversationalist. And you find that like this little shadow piece that you've been shaming actually has a lot to teach you. And you want to like actually have tea with it and have like an amazing conversation with it.
Yeah.
So write it down, scratch it out, listen to what's coming up, and whatever is coming up, welcome. And that will start the process of defining what the next right steps are.
Beautiful, brother. Thank you so much. I want to give you an opportunity also to share what you've got going on and where the brothers here in the community can connect with you and others listening to this conversation. Is there anything, before we do that, is there anything from the conversation today you'd like to add or comment on or share to feel complete in the conversation today?
Just want to say, this is tough. It's okay that it's tough. It's okay that this is not coming easy for you. It's okay. You know, I feel you. I feel you. I hope whoever is watching, like you feel yourself and you hold yourself. You know, it's tough. And we've been shamed so much around this. There's so much shame around this. And if you're coming to that place of contraction, just come back to this place of heart, that place of love. I can guarantee you that you're not going to get anywhere in your relationship with porn if you're not coming from that place of deep love, deep compassion. That is the only place where we can start untangling whatever is going on with us. There's no other source. There's no other place. So come back to love, come back to heart, and you will be mystified at how much is already known there and how much will already start unfolding from there. So come back to love.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Attila. And for the brothers that would like to connect with you, where can they find you and what do you have going on? What would you like to share?
I'm having, I have kind of free workshops all the time that's kind of exploring like different aspects of this as a part of different seminars or different retreats. I just finished a week-long teaching that's based in Australia. That's, you know, we've been kind of bringing 50 souls along this journey. If you would like to connect with me, add me on Facebook, reach out, PM me. I would love to hear about anything that resonated with you. Like, it would actually nourish me to hear from you about your experience of our chat. So if there is something that you've gotten from this, it would be an incredible, or if there's something that you've been bothered by it, or if there's something that's like made you think, it would be an incredible gift for me if you reached out to me and just shared with me your experience of our chat today, because I would love to find out about your experience. That's something that deeply feeds me. You know, based on where you're at, I can start keeping you in the loop about my upcoming offerings. So I do a lot of you know, free workshops for the community, because I just love feeding the community and just sharing our wisdom. So I can keep you up to date about that. And also I do one-on-one coaching. So if this is something, these topics are something that you would like to go into a deeper exploration with me, I have, yeah, we can explore that. I also have room for that right now. And so reach out and we can start a conversation.
Okay, beautiful. So what I'll do is I'll follow up with you, and I'll just get whatever links that you'd like to include in the conversation, and I'll drop them here in the group, and also add them to any other promotion we do around this conversation. Okay.
Fantastic.
All right, brother. Thank you so much, man. Yeah, I appreciate your wisdom and your heart, brother, and thanks so much for being here with us, man. You've been a real contribution to the conversation here.
Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you, brother.
Bye-bye.